What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It is me, Australia's finest. You know who it is, the bald, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight I have an amazing guest that I'm going to bring out and have a great conversation with. But before I bring out my guest, Ms. Lucille Brawl, it's time to thank some sponsors to keep the guys that help us keep the lights on up in this bitch. You know these neon lights aren't cheap. But first off, let's go into it, and that is the Wrestling Universe. Now, let me tell you something, guys. The Wrestling Universe is your one-stop shop for all your wrestling merchandise. They have all kinds of WWE, TNA, UFC, WCW, ECW, AEW, action figures, all the past ones, the present ones. They carry t-shirts, wrestling cards, autographed 8x10s, masks, belts, and much, much more. Guys, also, if you're in the Queens, New York area, in the good old US of A, they have in-store signings with some of the biggest names from the wrestling world. So if you're in the New York area, go and check it out, guys. All of their autographed items come with a certificate of authenticity. But guys, don't stress. If you're like me on the other side of the country, other side of the world, they ship internationally. So if you're in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, England, they will ship items to you, and you'll get them quick and without delay. Next up, guys, is Sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS.com. Sleefs.com. If you or someone you know is an athlete, you need to head over to Sleefs.com. They have all of your training apparel that you need. They're going to have knee sleeves, compression pants, headbands, tights, joggers, socks, even dirty boxes. Guys, they have sent me a whole heap of these dirty boxes, and they are the most comfortable boxes that I own. Seriously, guys, they I'm a very active guy. They stay clean, they stay fresh, and made of the best cotton that you'll absolutely find. So check out sleeves.com. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, guys, once you've gone over to sleeves.com, make sure you head over to healthvape.com. Now, guys, I'm an ex-smoker. I'm now a vapor person, user thingy, whatever you want to call the gimmick. But guys, my wife's been at me. She's like, Piers, you got to give up that vape thing. It's time for you to move on. Guys, you've heard me talk about it. I've made the step. I'm waiting on my health vapes to come in. This is my step off vaping, off everything, is going through health vape. All of their products are no nicotine, no harmful or addictive chemicals, and they're vitamin infused. So guys, head over to healthvape.com, pick up some of their vape and pod products, use code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on us, guys. So make sure you go and check that out. But guys, also, this week on MWA Podcast Network, we've got some big shows. I've got some multiple interviews coming to you live. We have a huge announcement that's going to be dropping in the next 24 to 48 hours. We're just finalizing a couple of things with that, guys, but this announcement's going to be huge. It's going to change the landscape of the MWA Podcast Network, where you can get such shows like Killing the Business, hosted by former ECW original, the Kingpin, Angel motherfucking Medina, and also starring King Mega and Glenn Sexton. They break shit down every single week. Angel is no holds barred. He can't really restrain himself on what he's going to say. So you really want to check out what he has to say about what's going on in the world of wrestling today. Also, guys, you need to check out Get Funked, hosted by former WCW and TNA star Alan Kwee Funk. Now, guys, Alan has been bringing on guys from his WCW days, his TNA days, his USA Lucha Libre days as well. And bringing on a lot of guys that he trained with at the power plant. And if you're like a wrestling, enthusiast, you're old like me, you remember WCW, you remember those days. He's bringing on some amazing people that you don't really hear from since they've left wrestling. So they're having amazing conversations. So make sure you check that out. And guys, while you're at it, make sure you check out Knights of the Gimmick Table, hosted by my good friends, the Dead Presidents, an independent wrestling tag team who is probably the most respected tag team on the American Indies for the last 20 years. Their show, they're bringing on guys that they've gone up and down the roads with. They're bringing them on, they're shooting the shit, talking about old stories. And man, again, just a funny, uncensored show that is for absolutely everybody. So make sure you tune in for that. But guys, tonight, my guest is Lucille Brawl. She is an independent Australian professional wrestler. She is a Twitch streamer. And, man, she's also a wrestling trainer as well. So without further ado, let's bring her out. Lucille, thank you for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sitting through that long intro. I really appreciate you sitting through that. But
all good.
How's everything been going for you, man? Like I think most of Australia's been in lockdown. I know I'm going into week 6 now for lockdown here in Sydney. But how's it been for you guys up there?
Yeah, so we've been good for the most part until it hit a few days ago where we got a big influx of cases. So now we're in the old lockdown as well, finally. I think everyone's had their turn this time round. And sorry, that's Bobby in the background.
You got a surprise run in and a moonwalk off camera.
That's it, exactly. Dickhead. Yeah, we're now a few days into our lockdown, but it doesn't change. I mean, it changes life a little bit, but not too much. I mean, I work a few different jobs. We have the school, but also which obviously can't run during this time. But I work a couple of other jobs which I can, so I'm still getting out of the house a little bit, which is not too bad at this stage, which is good.
Yeah. And, you know, as far as like wrestling goes, like we had a lockdown last year in 2020. It opened up. Shows started happening. You actually came down to Sydney for a few shows as well for FWA and PWA. And now we're back here. Like, do you think that we're looking at another 6 months of like no events?
I hope not, but it seems to be just as bad as it was when everything sort of shut down last time. And it's just kind of worrying because things are finally starting to head their way back up to a place where they were before everything sort of hit the fan. And I mean, it sucks. Like we were, Bobby and I were really looking forward to going down for Coliseum, and obviously now that's cancelled. And obviously we're booked for Deathmatch Down Under in a few weeks, and we're just holding our breath right now, like waiting until the very last second to, see if we can make our way down there, and praying that we can. Hopefully, they're saying that this lockdown is going to end by Sunday. We'll see. The numbers keep going up, so we'll see how that ends up in the end. But yeah, we're just hoping for things to continue as they were after everything's kind of eased off.
Oh, absolutely. And, as far as, wrestling as well, like, now having a training school, but like, when did you start to get into professional wrestling? What was the main thing for you? And like, do you remember the age you were when, wrestling really drew you in?
Yeah, sorry, I think the TV's just turned off in here. Just, try and turn the TV off because it started making noises. I'm so sorry, hold on.
That's all right, but while she's sorting out that, guys, make sure that you check out Get Funk this week. Alan Funk is going to be having on, Lash LaRue, former WCW Cruiserweight champion. So make sure to tune in for that Thursday at 7 p.m. USA Eastern, which is 9 a.m. Here Friday morning. So guys, make sure you tune in for that one. That's going to be a must tune in for, or just wait 24 hours and it'll be up on all podcast platforms. Much like this show tonight will be up within 24 hours. So, but anyway, welcome back.
Sorry, live stuff. I always end up having something going on. I'm going to blame Bobby on that one because he left the TV on here and it started making noises on me. So I'm going to blame Bobby.
That's all good. Hey, this is why we have shit in the shit. It's two conversations. People don't tune in for the fineness and the refinedness of the editing. But as far as like getting into pro wrestling, what was it that drew you in? And do you remember how old you were when you sort of hooked into professional wrestling?
I do, because it wasn't very long ago. It was actually probably about 8 years ago now that I actually started watching pro wrestling to begin with. So I was quite a bit older. I was about 21, 22, I think, when I first started watching it. So it wasn't the whole, my brother used to watch it when I was a kid, but I never really got into it when he was watching it. So, it was one of those things that I watched it about a few times. I started watching it a few times when I was, 20, 21, and I was like, this is all right. But I kind of it was always on in the background, and I never really actually sat down and watched it. And it was a few years in when I actually sat down and watched like a full show, and was like, oh no, I get it now. Like I understand. If you actually sit down and watch it, it's fun, you know.
Yeah.
So I ended up, watching it and really loving it. And then a few years down the line after that, I saw a friend had popped up on an Instagram story that he was doing some wrestling training in Brisbane, and I was like, what the heck? Like, you do wrestling training in Brisbane? Like, how is that a thing? Like, I didn't even know wrestling in Australia existed, let alone wrestling in Brisbane. And so that's where my whole journey started. And that was about 4 years ago when I started actually learning about Australian wrestling and learning and wrestling itself. But yeah, I'm still a baby, really, when it comes to wrestling and knowing about wrestling and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, just sort of like falling into it almost, like in a certain aspect. And yeah, there's a couple of people I've spoken to and have a very similar story of just sort of, yeah, not really a fan, and seeing it was like, yeah, I'll give it a crack, yeah, and just sort of going into it from there. But you know, when you went in there for the first day of training, did you find that it was anything like what you expected? Like, did you go in there thinking it was going to be, oh, okay, it's like, for example, it's going to be like falling on a pillow or falling on a trampoline? Did you have those conceptions?
I don't think I had any expectations when I walked in, to be honest. Like, I didn't know enough about anything. Hey, Kyle. I didn't know enough about anything when it came to wrestling to know what training was going to be like. So I was just throwing myself in the deep end. And honestly, it was just a lot of cardio. When I first started was all it was. A lot of cardio. And I was not a fit girl. So it was a hard, long slog for me. But I kind of went in there like empty brain, empty headed, waiting, like just, you know, ready to learn and whatever and however they wanted to teach me.
I think, like, from the stories that I've told, the reason why they go so heavy with the cardio is just to sort of wean out the people that are serious and the ones that are, well, wean out the people that are just not that are not mentally or not physically capable of doing it. And did you find that was the case for you? Like, did you find that it was the start of it was probably the most hardest part of getting into pro wrestling?
Yeah, absolutely. I really believe, like, when I first started, the training, it was really, really, really intense, really cardio heavy, really, really, 500 to 700 squat cardio heavy. Like, it was, you know, crazy. And I obviously, now that we run our school, everyone runs a school a little bit different. Everyone teaches a little bit different. Everyone trains a little bit different. So, we run it a little bit differently, but we still try to instill that heavy cardio aspect first up. You know, again, I guess the same thing, to try and really find out who's serious about it and who's willing to get past that point to continue on. Because not only that, but wrestling is very cardio heavy. You need to last in that ring for 8, 10, 12, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour if you're going to be doing a huge match. And you've got to keep going. And that is cardio heavy the entire time. So it's not just about weeding people out, I suppose, but definitely about seeing if you have that motivation to keep going after you've got nothing left.
And I think as well, like, you know, when you get tired and you get that physical exhaustion, it makes it harder for you to then obviously do certain things in the ring. But also the main thing is safety, because, you know, when you're getting in there with someone else, you're really putting your life in their hands and theirs in yours. And, you know, if you don't have that cardio and you're slow down, you could risk, you know, killing someone.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's why you'll find a lot of beginners classes when it comes to wrestling everywhere will start off with a lot of heavy, intense cardio drills. And then as you get on, when you're doing more advanced stuff, they expect that you're going to be doing that kind of stuff in your own time, so you can get more into the, you know, actual wrestling side of things. But yeah, when you're beginning, it is very, you know, building that cardio and getting people into like a habit of being able to do that kind of intense amount of exercise.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to really adapt to that sort of that cardiovascular that you needed? Because like you said, you weren't really someone who was worked out often.
No, I was horrible.
But how long did it take you to build up for you though?
I don't know if I have yet after 4 years, to be honest. I still don't have it. No, it took a while. When I first started, I couldn't do 20 squats. Like, that's how bad I was. Like, 20 squats is, I got to 10 and I was struggling. I couldn't get myself down and back up again, and I had to, really push myself through. So it took me a while. It took me a couple of months, a few months to really get myself into a rhythm where I was able to get through and push through more than 20, 30, 40 squats. And, when you're doing wrestling training, like 100 is generally a minimum, that's like a standard that you do in training. And to get to that, it took me quite a few months to be able to even easily push through that. And as I said, I still gas out. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where I don't. I'm a PT now, and I still push myself to the limit and still kill myself and gas myself out every time. I don't know if there's a way of me exercising without doing that.
But see, that's the same way that I like to train. Like, when I train, I don't like to go in there and just walk out there without cracking a sweat. I like to walk out there short of breath, dripping sweat, and just be completely fucked. Because then you've worked hard. You've deserved, like, to have that beer or have that steak. Or, you know what I mean? Like, that's always been my mentality with training. Like, it's
absolutely. I think my mentality changed a lot, because I was definitely, before then, like, I was that person who was just like, oh, I can't believe people wake up at 4 a.m. to go for a run. Like, that's so gross. Like, that was me before I started wrestling training, and now here I am waking up at 4 a.m. to train others to do exercise in the morning, like, and that kind of stuff. So I did a complete flip flop, and now when I can't be bothered doing weights, if I'm just like, I don't have the energy to do like a big gym session, I go in and do half an hour worth of cardio. Like, that's my easy exercise. So it's just it's funny how in 4 years things can completely change that way, because I was not that person before, I tell you what.
And what was the bumping like when you first started? Was that something that you were like, oh yeah, it wasn't like first bump and you were like in love?
No, I hated it. I still hate it. Bumping sucks. No, it's not too bad now, but you definitely, when you first bump, you get winded and you're just like, why am I doing this to myself? It's horrible. And then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And every time you wind yourself for the first few times that you do it. But I guess the best thing about wrestling training, which is a lot different to like you doing your gym and that kind of stuff, is that you've got lots of people around you. And so when you do something good, when you do something fun, when you push yourself past the limit, you've got people around you cheering you on, and that is such a big motivator that just kind of makes you want to keep going. It's like the biggest part of it. I think if I was just training one-on-one, I don't know if I would have gotten through it. I think having the people around me really made the difference.
So do you think it was the team-like mentality that really sort of helped you drive forward and succeed?
Absolutely. The people that I was training with are still some of the people that I train with now. And they're just, fantastic people, and everyone's so positive. Everyone motivates each other. Whenever someone, does something new or does something exciting or gets past a, scary thing that they've been not being able to do for ages, everyone's like really supportive. And I think that was the biggest thing. And I think that's probably for a lot of people, having that family. It's like a family mentality almost. Everyone looks after each other, and it's really nice. It's a very heartwarming thing coming into a community like that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably stepping away from what it probably was, back like the stories you hear like from 20, 30 years ago. Like I've spoken with Alan Funk, who was at the WCW power plant, and some of the stuff that he tells me is just like, holy shit. Like, he's told me like of guys like literally on hand and knee crawling out the door and them grabbing him by the legs and dragging him back.
Yeah. Horrifying.
He's like, that's how we motivated, bro. And I'm like, Jesus. Like, but again, different times as well. Now it's, it's a much more nurturing environment. And and I'd say you'd probably see people excelling a lot more in that sort of environment than being almost like intimidated to do it.
Yeah, and there is an element of tough love in there still. Like, there's been times where I've been like, I can't do it, and they're just like, we'll just do it anyway. It's just there is that element of like, well, it's too bad because you're going to have to because you're not leaving here until you do it. So, there is that element of tough love, and I think there needs to be, especially in a sport where you're jumping over ropes and you're flipping and you're doing all that kind of stuff. It's scary. Like, they're scary things to do. So there is that element, but it's always met with really positive feedback, even if you stuff it up completely. As long as you've tried, that's fantastic. So. Yeah, the people in wrestling, not just up here, but everywhere in Australia, have got that same. Everywhere I've gone, at least, have got that same sort of mentality of we will look after each other and we'll push you through it. And sometimes it'll be freaking scary, but we're always there to back you up in the end. So it's really nice the way it is around here.
I completely agree. Like, from everything that I've been around the promotions here in New South Wales and interactions with Victoria and so forth, everyone is just so respectful. And you know what I mean? Like, you can definitely see that it's not just a cover up bullshit. Like, it's very genuine how it is in Australia. And I tell people, like, over in the US how it is, and some of them like, nah, bro, they're just working and I'm like, I don't know, man. I've got a pretty good detector of bullshit, and it seems like genuine care, especially like in a place like Australia, because we're so small compared to some of the other parts of the world. So, I always talk about, when lockdown started opening up last year, we were one of the first places to have live events with full crowds. And, that put a lot of eyes on the Australian product, and seeing so many Australian stars just really sort of flourish, and seeing how Australian talent has really sort of bloomed over the last 10, 15 years to get prominent opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Australia, I guess, is everyone knows everyone, right? It's like it's big, but it's small. So I think that's the thing. Like, if someone's not a decent person, they're not around for very long, because everyone's sort of like, well, if you're not nice to that person, I know this person, this person, this person, and that's how it is. So I think it kind of weans out the crap, and you're left with some really decent, lovely, supportive people.
Yeah, like, I think that's and that's the thing. Like, we're better off being that way, being professional wrestling. I mean, being such a small community, and the shows that I've been to are welcoming for like fans, and everyone just seems like a very, like, come on in. Like, it's all about having fun and a good time and be cool. Yeah. And basically a no dickhead policy, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, in any kind of thing like wrestling, like or sports in general, there's going to be dickheads that you have to deal with. But when the majority of the people are good people, it's easier to ignore the shit, basically.
Yeah. But once you did start getting in there and started picking up the wrestling aspect of it, what were some of the people that you were watching? Like, were your trainers like going, okay, I suggest you go and watch XYZ or these sort of matches? Did you then go back and start doing a lot of like video study on certain people?
I did a little bit, yeah. My trainers didn't really send too much to me. They kind of just told me, do some research, have a look at what you want to look at some female wrestling, just that kind of stuff. And I did a bit of I wanted to have a look at like different stuff everywhere, like Japanese wrestling. I looked at a lot of Australian wrestling because obviously I didn't know a lot about it when I first started because I didn't even know it was a thing. And then obviously your WWE and that kind of stuff because that's what you start off with when you first watching wrestling is WWE. So I did try to do a little bit of backwards research into people like Manami Toyota, who's absolutely one of my favorites now, incredible, and watching some of the old diva stuff to see how it's grown since then as well. But there was a little bit of research back, and there's still so much more I need to learn. And having Bobby around is great for that because he's like an encyclopedia of wrestling. So he'll just be like, "Oh, have you watched this? Do you know who this is? Oh, I'll put it on for you." Like he just knows everything and can put on a match and knows exactly when the match was and put it on for me. So he's great for me learning, previous stuff that I wasn't watching at that time to know.
Yeah. And, you mentioned like the Divas era of wrestling and, back when you started 4 years ago, like what was your idea of what women's wrestling was like? Like, did you see it as from what you saw when you were younger? and what you remembered it from back then and gone, oh, like, or was it? How did you view it yourself?
I didn't really view women's wrestling. I had this. I'd only watched a lot of like men's wrestling when I first started wrestling. So my idea of wrestling was just that. It was just wrestling. And my idea of wrestling is obviously still just that. It's just wrestling. So I came in with a very, very clear head of anything. I had watched, about 4 years ago or 8 years ago, whenever I started watching, we were pretty much already out of that diva stage, and the girls were doing the real cool stuff in wrestling. They were actually doing wrestling. So that's what I knew because that's what I was watching. So all I saw was, other wrestlers doing wrestling. So that's what I came in knowing, that I was going to be doing exactly the same as anyone else in that ring.
When did you like looking at wrestling from then, when it went from divas to where women's wrestling is now, what do you think was the main turning point for that?
Oh, that's a hard question. I don't know. I guess because I didn't do like the whole watch through the years. Sure. I kind of just went back and watched like old WWE stuff and saw what the Divas stuff was like. Changing the belts over from the Divas belt, I think, was a huge step. Changing it from that pink butterfly, cutesy belt to having like a real genuine looking belt. I definitely think is a huge part of the turning point for women's wrestling, to show we don't need it to look fancy and pretty and all that kind of stuff. It's a belt. It's we're the same as the others. So I think that's probably a huge part of it. But I haven't really gone through and like watched from, when it went from diva all the way up to now. So I couldn't really tell you. I probably am not the best gauge of the best person to say what the definitive turning point was, I suppose, because I just sort of went and looked at the diva stuff and then looked at now stuff, and then looked at the differences between it.
Do you think that the diva stuff there could still be used in today, like bits of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I even use some of the moves from back in those days. I think there's a lot of they did a lot of cool stuff still in the diva era. It's just streamlining those cool things that they did and the moves that they did and bringing it into the now. So you're not doing this over-sexualization of stuff. You're not doing the whole cat fight stuff. But you can still use a lot of the moves that they were doing, because some of the moves are really cool. And some of them do still get used to this day. So, and I think that's definitely what has happened. We've moved on from the cat fight, sexualization, the stripping of clothes, all that kind of horrible crap that was happening back in the day, and brought it forward to the present, where we can use those moves as a female wrestler, but also men can use those moves as well. They're not specifically female moves anymore.
It's just wrestling now. Just
wrestling. That's exactly it.
And that's the thing. As long as the move's believable, like it'd be the same if like Rey Mysterio tried to do a choke slam on the Big Show. Like, what?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And that's where I think, and I've always said, is if wrestling makes sense and can take you out of the realm of believability, then it's done its job. As long as it makes sense for me, I can sit there and enjoy it. But
yeah, that's exactly it.
And as far as like actually getting in and having your first match and going through the steps for that, how did you feel going into that? Like, did you feel like you were prepared? Do you feel like you were underprepared at that point?
I think I felt pretty prepared. I'd been training for about, technically I had 2 first matches. So I'll actually go through my first match, because it was like a beat down. I was 6 months into my training, so I was terrified. I was not ready for this one at all. Yeah. I was 6 months into my training. Someone had pulled out of the show. We needed Rufio. I don't know if you know Rufio, but he was my trainer at the time, and he needed to be a heel. He needed to beat someone down, make him look real tough, real horrible, real strong, real mean. Yeah. He's like, cool, well, do you want to be in a match with me? 5 minutes. I'll tell you what to do. And I was like, oh, sure. I had no gear. All I had was a name. All I had was Lucille Brawl. And I'd had that from the very beginning. So at least I had my name. But I was in gym wear because we'd had a training session before that, so I at least brought gym wear with my knee pads and all that kind of stuff. So I was all in that, and yeah, I got in that ring and did a 5-minute match with Rufio 6 months into my training, where I got beat down a little bit, but I got a good couple of hits in, and I look back at it now and I'm like, it's terrible, but oh god, it was fun.
But do you feel like Rufio saw it and went, you know what, you're ready for this? And that's why he put you in the position?
I think I was definitely ready for what he put me into, for sure. So he knew what I was capable of at the time, and he definitely did the whole match around what I was capable of. And for that, it looked pretty decent. Like, it was simple. That's what it needed to be. It gave off the exact kind of vibe he wanted. Everyone was booing him out there. They were cheering me. Everyone loved me, hated him. Like, it gave him exactly what he needed for that match. So, I mean, it worked out pretty damn well for everyone involved. And then I wasn't in another match for a year and a half after that. So everyone was just like waiting for me to come back.
You sold the injuries. That's all you can say.
I did. I sold them real bad.
Yeah. That beatdown took you out for 18 months. But let's get into the second first match.
So the second first match, this was like my proper debut, right? Because I had a graphic made up. I was in a Rumble, and it was on one of the biggest shows that we had up here in Queensland for a while, which is Homecoming. It was a once-a-year thing. It was kind of like, you know, where we put all of our efforts into. And I was in the Rumble, and I had my gear all made. I was ready to go. Like, this is, you know, I was very prepared for this one because I was told a little bit in advance that's where they wanted to debut me. And it was just a simple match. Like, I was in a Rumble. I had a little bit of a spot with a couple of people, and then I was out pretty quickly. But I felt really good about it because I got like a big spot in there. I got a couple of really good hits in. I got to take a huge spear, which scared my parents, and that was all that I could hope for. They hated it. It was great.
Yeah. And have the parents been supportive in the pro wrestling journey over the years?
They're very supportive. They're not huge fans of coming and watching because they don't like watching me get hit. They're like, oh no, we don't like watching that. That's not a thing that we enjoy. But they, whenever I tell them, you know, I've got a booking over here or this is what I'm doing here, they're always like incredibly supportive. They love hearing about it. They're just terrified of watching it.
Well,
I can understand.
Maybe after lockdown, they'll just want to get out of the house and they'll be like,
That's true. That's true. They might want to.
Because that's exactly what my parents have done. Like, you know, they've said, like, after this lockdown, they're like, oh, next time you're doing the ring announcing or commentary, we'll come and watch. I'm like,
yeah.
If I'm doing commentary, you're not really going to be able to hear me. Like, I'm going to be sitting. Oh no, we'll come watch.
We'll do it anyway. We'll go out of the house.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Don't be a mark, Mum. But, I think, you know, as well, like, parents have always got that thing. I think especially, you know, for daughters, like, I've got a little girl, and if I had to go there and sit there and see someone like spearing my daughter, I'd probably be feeling a little bit anxious about it as well. But
absolutely.
So I wanted to ask, because one of the guys on our network, Boogaloo, who hosts Nights of the Gimmick Table, he hit me up and he was like, yo, like, he's from over in the States in Florida, and he's like, yo, bro, do you guys really have a wrestler over in Australia called Lucille Brawl? And I'm like, yeah, we do. And he goes, that's the coolest fucking name I've ever heard, bro. Like, you are over with him, bro, like, over in the States, because he was like, that is like the coolest fucking name. And I wanted to ask you, like, how did you come up with Lucille Brawl? Like, were you a big I Love Lucy fan? Like, how did that
I didn't come up with it, actually. It was one of those things where it was a few friends of ours, like, we were sitting around a table, we were all having a couple of drinks, you know, we're at our house, and I was talking about how I'd started wrestling training, and this is what I was doing, and I was really excited. I'm trying to work out my character, and I need to find a name and something really cool, and, you know, we're just spitballing different names. You know, we're thinking about all of the names of people from WWE, and my friends were just sort of shooting stuff out. And I don't know if it was an ad or something that came on the TV or something that triggered it, but one of my friends was just like, what about Lucille Brawl? And I was like, oh. And that was it. We didn't spitball any other names that night. That was it. That was the one, and it has stuck ever since.
But I'm surprised that no one has ever used it, because it's such a cool name.
I was very, very shocked because I heard it and I was like, I bet you someone else has got it. And I did my search, and a lot of derby girls, like roller derby girls, use it. There's been a few roller derby girls that use it, but in the array of wrestling, there was nothing. And I was like, right, that's it. And I changed all my social medias over. I needed to have it like set so that I had it there ready to go. Because if anyone else took it by that point, I would have been super sad.
Oh, but like the original character, did you plan it to be like a 1950s like spin-off? Was that the original?
There was definitely a part of it. It was kind of originally when we spitballed the name, we were like, well, now we have to go with like a Lucille Brawl kind of gimmick. And we sort of played with it a little bit and what I could do and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't me. I wasn't going to be able to do its full justice as a character. And I wanted to really do something that I knew I was going to be able to play properly and do properly and portray properly. And so I said, well, look, if we just get away from that idea completely, how about we go into like the superhero, supervillain kind of thing? Because I really love comics. I love the comic movies. You know, I watched Spider-Man as a kid, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, Lucille Brawl kind of sounds a bit of as like a superhero name, right? Like, you know, they have really cool names like that. I feel like we could still work with it. And so that's sort of where we went into and where the whole character sort of got built from.
Yeah, nice. And I think as well, like going in a 1950s sort of style, like, I don't know, like that would have been a hard gimmick to sort of really sort of deliver on every single time. And
absolutely. And I think that's where it was sort of like, how was I going to be able to deliver that every single show? And what was I going to do, and what was going to be how I portrayed myself. And then we realized it was probably going to be okay at first. It would have gotten real boring real quick. And you wouldn't be able to do much with it. And I think it was just one of those things like, look, you know what, let's just throw it out. We can keep the name. The name still sounds pretty superhero-y. Let's just work with that.
So the gimmick now, like as a superhero, like I'm imagining it like this is a very babyface gimmick.
Yeah, it is. And originally I actually built my whole character around being a heel, funnily enough, because I was told when I was training that I had a very angry face whenever I did anything, and that I always looked really grumpy, and I always looked real intense, and that I would be great to be a heel. And so throughout my whole training, I was told that I was going to be a heel. Yeah. And then I came out and did my Rumble spot, and I was face, and everyone loved me, and they're like, nah, you're not heel, you're face. So I like designed, you know, black and green, and I, you know, designed my logo around the Hydra logo and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, nah, you're face. I'm like, right, well, we'll work with it then, because I've already got the gear made.
Have you ever tried to work heel?
I've done a little bit. When Bobby and I did EPW, we worked as a heel tag team over there. It was a lot of fun. I think I found it pretty easy because I could play off Bobby quite a bit, and he's just an amazing, when it comes to character work in general, he's just incredible. So to be able to bounce off him made it a lot easier for me. But I have done a little bit of it, yeah. Not much though.
Do you think, like, with your character being a superhero, that it would be difficult to be a heel with that? Like, do you think you would have to change your character completely to make it a heel?
No, I don't think so. I've already sort of thought about this, because obviously there's probably going to be a time in where someone's going to want me to do heel for quite a decent amount of time, and there's always a way to make a superhero not seem like a superhero, but have them still think they're a superhero. There's been lots of instances in movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff where someone thinks they're the good guy and thinks they're doing everything right when really they're just doing everything wrong. And so if I play it that way, I think I'm not going to have any issues if I do need to be a heel at any point. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm one of those people who likes to think of everything and every possible scenario ahead of time. So if anything happens, that I can work my way around it. So it's all up here. It's all ready to go if I need to.
Yeah. And, you know, as far as now, like, you're a coach, right? Like you're training guys, you and Bobby up there.
So I'm not so much. I'm more of an assistant. Bobby does most of the training. I just go in and help, you know, every so often. I just haven't been doing it long enough to know enough about everything. So I feel like, getting people who've been in the industry longer to train our guys is going to give them a little bit more. I've done a little bit of training with them, but not a lot. But Bobby is really the trainer up here for the beginner guys. Him, and we have Diablo helping out, as well as Sorrow. There's a few of our guys up here helping with the beginners.
Yeah, and is like becoming a trainer something that you want to be doing more of later on in your career, like, and as you're developing as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It sort of ties in, I suppose, to my PT stuff as well. It's something I enjoy teaching. I enjoy teaching and helping people improve and watching people grow. It's one of my favorite things, and why I went into PT and training people to begin with. So once I have more knowledge under my belt, give me another few years, and I've got that little bit more experience, it's definitely something I'd like to come back to doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like, it takes a special kind of person to really be able to coach and even being like a personal trainer to a certain thing, because you have to have so much level of patience. I think especially with people that are like not getting it straight off the bat, or might take them a minute. Like, it would be a challenge. It must be a challenging role as well at times for a coach to do
definitely. That. Yeah, definitely. And for the guys, the guys who do train the beginners, that's definitely one of the things that they have, is a lot of patience, because we have obviously our advanced guys who get taught by Mark Davis, and you want to be able to get them up to the level so they can then learn from the best as well. But you've also got to take your time and get them to learn all the fundamentals and really spend a lot of time getting that down pat before they can get anywhere near the advanced sort of stuff. So it can be tedious, but rewarding at the same time.
Do you guys have people coming in there that just want to get inside a wrestling ring and do a rock bottom, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I can imagine like having a wrestling school, you would have to sort of really determine who's actually there to be legit and who's just there because they want to play wrestler for an afternoon or a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of why we do tryouts up here. It's sort of to weed out the people who aren't real serious about actually doing wrestling. And you still find, even after getting people through tryouts and then passing, that they'll do it for a couple of weeks, realize that they're not able to flip off the top rope yet, and then leave. So you'll tell a lot of the time the people who will stick around, and they're the people who consistently improve and listen, and they're every single week and wanting to learn whatever it is that you have to give them without complaint. But yeah, you do tend to have people who come in and think that wrestling's all, the second week we're going to teach how to do a moonsault, which is, it's
like, I'll start wrestling training today. Next week I'll get signed by WWE, and I'll be WrestleMania in a few months. Like,
no biggie. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And I have to tell people. Yeah, I keep telling people, like, I was training for 2 years before I even started on shows properly. Like, it takes time.
100%. And I think as well, the longer it probably takes you, like a person, the better, because it's like, then you at least know that they're not putting someone out there who's not ready to be in that situation to begin with. So,
that's exactly
people are better off taking their time, because, like I said, as much as I'm sure there's a lot of young trainees that want to rush to get out there, but you have to look at the safety side of things as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I think the standard is generally about 1.5, 2 years for most people to train to really get to the point where they can be put in matches. Generally speaking, from what I've spoken to people.
100%. But you potentially are going to Victoria for Deathmatch Down Under in a couple of weeks, if all fingers crossed and lockdown stay open. But which card are you going to be? Because I know they've got a couple of cards. They've got Death, the Dream card, and then they've got another one, I think, very close to that date. So which one are you supposed to be wrestling on?
So I'm on Dream at the moment. That's what we've got going on at the moment, and then we're also going to be doing, I think, another show on the Sunday with 6 Below. But at the moment, we're on the dream card. Yeah, so I'm very excited. It's a triple threat tag team match with the Chance, Aisha, and Murdoch, as well as Corn Dog and Lily Blaze. And I've been wanting to wrestle all these people for so long, and I really want to wrestle them so badly, and I want to go down there. I'll be very sad if we can't make it. I've been looking forward to it for a very long time.
Yeah, Deathmatch Down Under is, one of those promotions that have really hit the ground running. Good friends of mine and amazing people that run that organization, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun down there, especially with Aisha and Murdoch. They're great people. Same with Corn Dog and Lily. So. Yeah,
all are incredible people. And Deathmatch Down Under, I've been wanting to wrestle since they started up. That's been the goal is to get down there since they started and since before they started. This being able to get down there and have our first match being a championship tag match with some amazing wrestlers who I've been dying to wrestle for the last year. I've been wanting to obviously wrestle Lily Blaze, and since I did my the MCW Girl Show a couple of years ago, and Aisha was on there, I've been wanting to wrestle Aisha since then. So these are two girls I've been wanting to wrestle for a really long time, and then put in Murdoch and Corn Dog. It's an incredible match. So, and obviously Bobby with me because he's my tag. Obviously,
that's one of the matches I'm really looking forward to on the card. I think it's gonna potentially be the dark horse match on the card. I think it could potentially be up there as one of the top matches there. But considering it's deathmatch tournament, but is deathmatch wrestling something that you would potentially want to do down the track as well?
I've thought about it. I think I need a little bit more time doing TLC matches and that kind of stuff, just to get myself into it. I did my first tables match not too long ago, and that was super exciting. I loved it. It was one of the best things I've ever done. I loved it so much. But I think I need to build myself up to it. But it's definitely something I've thought about. Probably not a full-on death match, maybe a light tube match or something, just to give it a go. I feel like I feel like I want to give everything a go once. If I don't do it, then I'm missing out.
Well, yeah, you never know. You could be the next, deathmatch standout star of Australia. So
maybe I'll just fall in love with it. Who knows? To the the horrifying looks of my parents and my family and Bobby.
Hey, wrestling can be an illusion as well, and that's something I say. It's it might look brutal, but that's exactly what pro wrestling's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
I know that's just the way I look at it. But it is coming to that time of the show. It is 60 seconds with Piers. How this is going to work? We've told Lucille how we're going to do this. I'm going to fire a bunch of questions. She's got 60 seconds to answer as many as she can.
Oh God.
Are you ready to go?
I'm nervous. You just start whatever.
All right. You give me the go. You let me know when you're ready, and we'll start the clock.
All right, go.
Snapchat or TikTok?
TikTok.
Favorite song to sing in the car?
I don't know. Anything Panic at the Disco.
One has to go. Game of Thrones, Lord of Rings, or Harry Potter?
Game of Thrones.
Ooh. Okay. Plain fairy bread or fairy bread with Nutella?
Plain fairy bread.
How do you take your coffee?
Black.
iTunes or Spotify?
Spotify.
Which Chris is hotter, Hemsworth, Evans, or Pratt?
Hemsworth.
What TV series do you watch over and over again?
Office.
Okay, so what is your biggest pet peeve?
Leaving doors open.
If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
Talks a lot.
Who would you choose to play you in a movie about your life?
Oh, Scarlett Johansson.
Aliens, real or fake?
Real.
5-star hotel or camping?
5-star hotel.
Okay, in 5 minutes, you're being shipped to outer space. What 2 personal belongings do you take with you, excluding humans?
Shipped to outer space, 2 personal belongings. My Switch and my charger for my Switch.
Time. There you go. That is probably the most practical answer. So, that I think you can give. But Lucille, thank you for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I could talk to you for about another hour or two. Definitely would love to get you back on for a part 2 sometime down the line. But why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media, where they can support you and get some merch?
Yeah. So social media, I'm Lucille Brawl Pro on Twitter. I am Lucille_Brawl_Pro on Instagram. You can also find me on Twitch. I'll be starting up again very, very soon. Again, just Lucille Brawl Pro. Pretty much if you search Lucille Brawl Pro anywhere, you'll probably find me. My merch is all on Wrestler merch. I've got a couple of t-shirts up on there, just under Lucille Brawl, so you can check that out if you like as well. And that's pretty much it. You can find our school at 3 Count Pro Wrestling Academy as well.
There you go. And also Lucille is on Twitch. So why don't you tell everyone their Twitch handle, so if they're tuning in on Twitch, they can give you a follow.
It's just Lucille Brawl Pro.
There you go. So make sure you head over there, follow her on Twitch, go and follow Lucille on all her social media, and even buy a t-shirt, help them out. It's independent wrestling, and everything goes a long way in that sort of aspect. But Lucille, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in live, and everyone who's listening to this over again on all podcast platforms, which we've just debuted this week. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, you name it. Wherever you get your podcasts, you'll be able to find the MWA Podcast Network. Guys, we've got an amazing bunch of shows coming up with Knights of the Gimmick Table later this week. We've also got Get Funked this week, and also Killing the Business. So make sure you tune in for those shows. But guys, I'm going to be going live again on Thursday at 9 p.m. with my guest York, who's also going to be wrestling on Dream. So make sure you tune in for that. And guys, make sure you show some support to our sponsors, The Wrestling Universe, your one-stop shop for all your pro wrestling needs, and also sleeps.com, and also healthvape.com. So use promo code MWA pod to save 10% off your final purchase. But guys, thank you very much for tuning in. It's time for us to get out of here. We'll catch you soon. Lucille, we'll catch you later. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Peace.